So for this video, we're going to be looking at graph examples. So we're going to see lines graphed, and we're going to determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So to do this, I need to find the slope and see whether they're the same or they're opposite reciprocals. So looking at this first graph, I'm going to go ahead and find the slope of UV first. Doesn't matter which one you start with, but I'm going to go ahead and start with that one. And so I see from this point to this point, I go up 1, 2, 3. And then I go to the right, 1. So my slope here is my raised 3. I went to the right 1. So my slope is 3. Next, I'm going to look at my slope of xy. So I'm going to go ahead and go from this point to this point. It doesn't matter which one you go, but I like to always start with the lower one. So here I go up 2. So, no, not 3, 2. So I raised 2. And then I go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And since I went to the left 6, that's going to be negative. Well, and then I'm going to go ahead and simplify that, because 2 can go into 6. So I'm going to divide both top and bottom by 2. And so I get 1 over negative 3. Okay, now I need to look at those and determine whether these are parallel or perpendicular. Well, I know they're not parallel because 3 and negative 1/3 are not the same number, so definitely not parallel. So now I need to determine whether they're opposite reciprocals. Well, something to remember here is when I have a whole number 3, that's really the same thing as 3 over 1. Well, if I flip that, that becomes 1/3. And if I take the opposite sign, that should be negative. And I see that's exactly what I have. So it's okay if the negative goes with the 1 or the 3. They both mean the same thing. So since these are opposite reciprocals of each other, the answer here is perpendicular. And so if I go the other way around here, if I flip that, I get negative 3 over 1, which is just negative 3. And if I take the opposite sign, I get a positive 3. So you could look at it either way. Okay, let's try another one together. So I'm going to start with finding the slope of GH. So I say I rise 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I run 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's a positive 4 and a positive 4 again. Well, and then 4 divided by 4, I just get 1. Okay, now let's look at the slope of IJ. So here I'm going from this point all the way up to this point. So if I count that, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I rise 8. And then I go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. And since I'm going to the left, that means this is a negative 4. Well, and then 8 divided by a negative 4 gets me a negative 2. Okay, so looking at that, first off, I know they're not parallel. The slopes aren't the same. And then if I look at the opposite reciprocals, see if they're opposite reciprocals, I see they're not, because this one's a 1, that one's a negative 2. If I flip that, that's just going to be a negative 1/2, which isn't equal to this. So since it doesn't fall either under parallel or perpendicular, the answer on this one is going to be neither. Okay, go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to try number 3 on your own. Okay, so the answer you should have gotten for number 3 was parallel. After finding those slopes, you should have seen that they both came out to being 2. Okay, now number 4 is a little bit different. I see that I have a horizontal and a vertical line. Well, if you recall from the last video, I told you whenever that happens, these are going to be perpendicular. But let's say you didn't remember that. So let's go ahead and try finding these slopes. So if I'm finding the slope of YZ, I see to get from point Y to Z, I don't rise at all. So that means I have a 0. But then I see that I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 0 over 6, or just 0. Okay, and then the slope for WX, I see to get from X to W, I rise 1, 2, 3. But then I don't run at all, so I have 0. And so the reason why these end up being perpendicular is because I can never divide by 0. So this is just undefined. And while this one is 0. And so these will technically end up being opposite reciprocals. And then you can also just see from the picture too that it just creates that box. So every time you have the horizontal and vertical lines intersecting, they will always be perpendicular. Okay, that's it for this video. You can go ahead and move on to the next one where we will look at equations.